I just got back a CGC standard order of some Japanese Gold Stars and Japanese Crystal Pokemon cards. So these are kind of like more higher end cards, but they were pretty beat up. So I sent them standard. I'm not expecting, huge grades. I know I didn't really get any nines or tens on them. I'd be happy with maybe a six on some of these cards. And I'm guessing like the lows are going to be very low. So I do just want to open them up on the channel and show them off. And just like reference to, these were sent at the end of January as standard tier, and they got back to me today, which is like March, I think March 5th. March 5th. So it took around the timeline they said, standards at 20 days, 20 working days turnaround. And I think that's like right around where we are. Yeah, because February is like a shorter month and with the weekends and the holidays. All right. And this is how they just came back. It was 8 cards. They send them back in this like little thing. It's just like a styrofoam. If you've never done a submission with them, this is how they'll do like submissions of less than 10 cards to get them back in this. And I also wanted to highlight that they did like a new case, so I want to show that off. But yeah, give me a second and I'm going to pull these all out of the shipping container. So we're going to start off with the most beat of them all, which is pretty confidently the Celebi Gold Star sent in. This one was absolutely destroyed, which kind of sucks because, when I looked at, I referenced this in my video where I talk over like the big binder collection I purchased. I paid like $3,600 for this binder with a bunch of EX cards. So it's not just this, but like, I didn't really get good photos, so I couldn't tell. And I was hoping that a lot of these Gold Stars were in better condition. And this one was like the absolute worst of them all. Just look at that. It has like huge edge wear, chipping at the top. There is like a light dusting on the case. So I'm going to try to rub that off. But you can just tell, like, even with the dusting, like even with a little bit of a dirty case, you could just tell that there's a lot of issues. There's a crease right there. Huge edge wear. Like this one's completely pushed in. You can see the white. It's rough. So this one got a 2.5. So this is Celebi Gold Star from Miracle Crystal. This is the first edition, so you have a little stamp at the bottom. And even that corner is messed up. It's like pressed in. The corner's pressed in. Let's see. There's a crease there. Corner issues right there. That one's like the corner's getting flipped up. These are still good looking cards. Crease right there. Like for the most part, there's serious edge wear and surface wear too with the crease. But like the actual card part itself, which is just the Celebi, looks good. I can try to zoom in, but I don't see huge issues with it. The Celebi itself looks fine. There might be like some scratches on top of it. Like for the most part, this is a good looking card. And even in a 2.5, actually, let me grab something. So this is a 2.5 I got in a Dark Charizard. I got this back in a different video a while back. This was one that I talked about that the seller gave to me for free when I was buying some other cards. But let's see, this got a 2 on surface, 2.5 corners. But if you compare them, would you personally say that these are both equal of the same grade, like worth the same grade? I really don't think you can make that case. I think this one's just way, way worse for 2.5. And like, I guess for the most part, this one did get a worse surface. But this one got, it's like, so we can look at what happened. The surface and center corners grades just got swapped. So this one technically has worse corners, and that's why I got 2.5. This one's a worse surface, got 2.5. But just like in terms of like plain presentability, and this was kind of my point, is that this 2.5 looks better than this 2.5. This one's a lot more presentable and looks cleaner. So if these cards are in order, this should be the Alakazam Gold Star I sent in. We can look at the back. There is definite edge wear. You can see that the corners, definitely not as bad as that Celebi. As I mentioned, that Celebi was like, the corners were almost completely pushed in. This corner, top right, is pretty bad. But the rest aren't the worst. That corner right there is actually pretty decent. That one's decent. And like for reference too, these cases are much nicer. If you maybe you didn't know, but they were trying to improve the issue that people were saying that the cases could be pried open. So they made them a little thicker, and you can definitely feel the difference. These feel thicker, they feel a little bit heavier. And I don't know, this is like, I'm happy that they're doing this because it's like they're constantly improving the product, that they didn't just like make up their mind when they launched the company, launched the trading card division and said they weren't going to change it. And also how the labels look in the case looks better. And maybe they always look like that, but I don't know, maybe because like it's a little bit of a thicker case that it looks a little sharper. But yeah, let's see. Flip to the front. Great looking card. 4.5. Miracle Crystal Alakazam Gold Star from 2006. And to be fair, I don't know like what the pull rate for these cards are, if they're like much harder in Japanese or if they're much harder in English. Let me just show you close up. These are great looking cards though. Yeah, that corner up there has like a little bit of a indent. Surface doesn't look that bad. They say the surface was a 4. Maybe there's like deep scratches throughout, but even the hollow foil looks pretty clean. Like I can shine that in the light. You're not noticing many scratches, and neither am I. So this one's kind of like one of the ones I'm curious like where it's saying that it's getting docked so hard on surface. But yeah, 4.5, still a pretty respectable grade and kind of like a one of the key Pokemon cards from that era. I'm not sure what this card is. I don't remember that order. This might be Charizard? Or no, this might be Jolteon, yeah. Because the Jolteon was the cleanest, and this one looks super clean. Look at that back. Minor edge wear here. It's still very light. Pretty decent edge corner wear. Not too bad on these corners. Top is all right. A little bit of a corner ding. So, maybe not a high grade. This is, I think, if this is the Jolteon, I expected maybe like a 6 or more. Flip it over. Excellent 5. That's still all right, I suppose. Let's see. Centering surface 4. Same thing with this Alakazam. I'm not really sure why they're getting docked down to 4s on surface. And maybe this is just me, like, obviously I want my cards to grade higher, but this is like weird because I don't see what's deserving of a 4. Like, what's that bad on the surface that's getting docked that hard? And just for reference too, this is the Jolteon Gold Star, obviously, but there is technically 3 versions of this card in Japanese. There is the Play Promo version, which has like the little P on the bottom right-hand corner. Then there's this one, which is the World Champions pack. And how this card released, I guess I'll do like a little bit of a history lesson for these cards. Is I think right around when the World Championship, I don't know what it's called in Pokemon, when Worlds was happening in Pokemon, when it's like the World Championship for the TCG. I think it was like 2007, right when this card released. So the English Pokemon set was actually ahead, and they had already printed these cards and a bunch of other cards in that set that weren't available in Japan yet. So what they did was Japan released an online subscription service, which is the World Champions pack, and you would purchase that to get the cards that the Japan sets were missing. So it's pretty much like the English set released first. Japan realized they needed to bring those cards over to the Japanese for the tournament, so they released an online exclusive pre-order type system. And if you ordered from that, you got the first edition. And after that, they realized that there might have been extra demand, so they did a first initial wave, and a while after that, they did another pre-order wave, which lasted for, I believe, maybe a week. And that week-wide pre-order is what became this, which is the World Champions Pack Unlimited, so it doesn't have the first edition stamp. So, like, just in terms of rarity, you have the common play promo is this one, which has like over 150 graded versions of this card. And then this is the World Champions Pack Unlimited, which I think has 7 or 8 graded at PSA. Maybe 10, but it's like very, very low. I'm very confident single digits of this card graded. So yeah, it's a great looking card. And if you notice, it's a little different than the play promo with like the way the hollow looks. I'm trying to get that on camera. But it has like the full body speckling. Next up should be the Charizard Gold Star set. This is the Delta species. Let's look. There's a lot of like fluff on the case. Yeah, we could see corner wear right there. All these corners might be banged up. I think the person I purchased this from, I realized this as I was like going through the binder collection, was that he seemed to have played with all his cards, and he was selling like Pokemon trophy cards from this era. So I do assume that he was just like an active player, and I guess if you're an active player, and you might not even like, a lot of these cards weren't really that valuable at one point, so you don't really care. I kind of showed it. 5.5 on the Charizard Gold Star Delta species. Great looking card. Look at that. Let's see. We got dinged on corners and surface. I guess that makes sense. We can see these corners on the front are a little banged up. The back corners aren't the worst, especially compared to some of the other ones we've seen. but these front corners, like look at the top left, has like a slight pressing. Bottom left is like crinkled up. Bottom right's crinkled. These are some of the cards too that I'm curious if, like I'm watching a lot of comic book videos. People do comic book pressing, which is like they re-add humidity to the paper, and then they use like a heat press to kind of realign the pages and make everything crisp, remove any bends or like waviness. And I wonder if you can do the same thing with cards. It's like, if there's a possibility that you could press these corners down, make them nice and flat to the point where this might even go up like a grade or two. Who knows? But I mean, this is obviously a good card. I recently saw PSA 5 in this card sell for like 700-ish. So I'm pretty happy with the 5.5. This is kind of like, right around the mark where I expected this. Next up, this should be the Mew Gold Star. Let's just look at the back. I think it's just how they ship them. It collects a lot of dust, and that like styrofoam kind of breaks apart and gets on the case. Honestly, this one's not bad. Like, look at these corners. These corners are nowhere near as bad as that Charizard on the back. I mean, the front might be different, but this one, oh wow, this is a strong back. Strong corners and edges. Still got a 5.5 because it got docked on surface. These are kind of frustrating because I can't tell why they're grading so poorly on surface. I guess you can see it on the Mew right there. It's like the Mew has it's like the Mew's wearing a t-shirt or something. There's like a line right under his armpit right there. And then I think you can maybe see it on his thigh, his right thigh right there. But like those are fairly minor, but I guess like that constitutes as bad enough. Yeah, Mew Gold Star Delta species. This is offense and defense of the further ends. I believe that's the full Japanese name of the set. Not the first edition, the unlimited one. Really nice looking card. Let's see. This got 6.5 on edges and corners. It's got 5. Guess that makes sense. I would say the edges are pretty similar between these two cards. It's just the corners on this Charizard are worse. And that was the last of the Gold Stars, and these are the Crystal cards that got graded. This one was the super beat up. I think the first edition Lugia was super beat up, Crystal Lugia. You can check the back. Corner has an issue. It's like a white speck stuck in the case. I can't get that out. And then look at this bottom. Really, really wrinkled. Maybe that's just bad, right? That's a bad bottom. Rough corners. And like for reference too, as I was like getting the submission together, I realized there was a bunch of like gunk stuck to the back. Almost like it was like a dried, I don't know, maybe like a dried sugar or something. It felt like a sugar solution, almost like when you spill soda and you get like a soda stain. It had like that color and texture. And I was able to like scrape that off. I got like a wet towel and just kind of rubbed it back and forth, like slowly and patiently, and dried it off. So I think I did everything that I could to clean the back of this card up. So let's just see. Okay, 3 is honestly pretty high for what I consider. That's pretty good. I thought this got like a 2. It's nice. Very good 3. Lugia, Pokemon Wind from the Sea, 090087. Crystal Lugia. Just a beautiful card, an iconic Pokemon card. I mean, this artwork's fascinating. Look at that. Lugia's exiting the ocean, flying to the sky. That's speckling. I'm not a huge fan of this either. This is the first edition, like I thought. We see the first edition set stamp in the bottom right, but the label doesn't denote that, which is like, I don't know, that's pretty inconsistent because like we look at this Celebi. This Celebi got the first edition thing at the very top of the label, and same idea, just has this first edition stamp on the bottom. So like CGC is very aware that this is a first edition card. It says so on the card, and that's kind of like a little frustrating. Because I would say like one of the selling points of this card is I would note that it's a first edition on my eBay listing, but the fact that it doesn't say it on the label is a little bit frustrating, to say the least. But yeah, we could just tell this card's rough. Look at the bottom left. That bottom left, I think you can kind of see it if I tilt it like that. You can see it's like peeling. So I believe when I took the card out of the sleeve and cleaned it, I noticed that this card was like, it was the foil, or like this, how they do the card is that it's like a hollow piece of like hollow board in between, and then they kind of paste these layers on top, and they're like kind of glued down, and that like pasted layer was peeling off. So like if I peeled that off, I could rip off the Lugia artwork. I mean, I'm obviously not going to do that, but that's like the condition it's in. So this surface, I think, is very justified for just how bad. I wish I might have a before picture that I could put up on the screen, like right here. And I'll try to like circle where the issues were, but there was just a lot of dirt buildup on the edges that I cleaned off. Next one should be the next Crystal Lugia. Off the bat, this one just looks better. This bottom right corner is bad, but top corner is not that bad. Oh, top left, I didn't realize it was like that. I don't even know what that is. You can see that, right? It's like it's like a dent. You can see if I angle like that, it's like a binder dent. I guess that's rough. And then bottom left has issues. Let's see. 4 in the Crystal Lugia. This is the unlimited, so you see it just doesn't have the stamp there. I mean, it's not a whole lot better. It's pretty much 1 grade up overall. It is 1 grade up exactly for everything, for surface corners and edges. So this is like a much stronger card. This is like one of those ones that's still really tough. Like, look at the front of this card. I don't think it's that bad. I really don't think the front. I mean, maybe this dent right there is awful. Like, that dent obviously should bring down surface, but the corners and edges don't look that bad to me. And obviously there's some bias when you're like grading your own cards with your eyes that you just think like, oh, these cards look pretty good to me. But for the most part, like, I don't know. I probably would have given it maybe like a 5. Maybe a 5. I wouldn't give it a 6, probably not. But I think maybe that felt a little harsh. And here's the last card, the Crystal Nidoking. This was the cleanest of the crystals. So you see like there's a very minor bottom, we see there's a very minor bottom right corner issue. But the top corners are honestly fine. Top right is, somewhat bad. That might be like, that's a pretty big detractor for corner, but not the worst. This bottom left's not that bad. The surface looks good too. There's no real dents or scratches that I'm noticing. 5.5. 5.5 is okay. Let's see if I can notice. It's got 5.5 surface, 5.5 corners. I guess the front corners are bad. That one's like slightly peeling. This right hand side's not that bad. Bottom right's pretty okay. You can see like minor peeling, but nothing that bad. And minor peeling in the left. Just a nice looking card. I'm not really sure why it got dinged for surface so much. It doesn't have a dent on the surface. And the Nidoking Hollow doesn't look scratched. Like, I can shine that through. It doesn't look that bad, but I mean, maybe they're seeing something with like the jeweler's loop that I'm not. And just a note, like with that peeling that I'm talking about, that's kind of the reason I wanted to get these slab too, is I just have like a general fear that if they're left outside of a slab, eventually over time, if they're handled, they might peel. And just get worse in condition. So you throw them in a slab, you just get them graded, and you can preserve them. Like even in these bad conditions, I think they're worth grading. I think they're worth preserving because they really are just like pieces of Pokemon history. Yeah, that's the last card from this standard order that I did with CGC. It took right around 30 days overall to get back to me, so I'm not disappointed. That's still faster than any competitor, and with PSA raising their prices, I can only imagine people are going to use this even more. But yeah, that was it. So let's just go over it again. Mew Gold Star, Alakazam, World Champions Unlimited Jolteon Gold Star, Charizard Gold Star, Mew Gold Star, Crystal Lugia, First Edition. I might actually send them an email about this because I would much prefer this to have the First Edition thing on the label, and that's a little frustrating. Crystal Lugia again, Unlimited, and then finally, a decent grade on Crystal Nidoking. I was a little bit off on my predictions. These grades were, overall a lot lower than I had anticipated, but, still fun. For 8 really, like, iconic cards for the TCG, I'm happy.